now. So
Oh, hang on one second. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is Johnny Vegas Namer, and this is Total Lacrosse with Johnny Vegas. And my guest today is Di Miller. And hang on one second. How you doing, Di?
really good. How are you, Johnny?
Doing good. And yeah, Di, just reload that YouTube link and then hit the mute button there. And
Okay.
everybody that's watching, feel free to chat. Feel free to ask questions. Anything you want to know in terms of professional lacrosse or RelaxFeli. And Di, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in lacrosse, and talk about your involvement with RelaxFeli.
Okay. Well, my son Kyle started playing lacrosse around between sixth and seventh grade. And I started out as a lacrosse photographer just for him, goofing around. Then he went into high school, and I became the high school lacrosse photographer for Heritage High School here in Littleton. Moved on to his college, Metropolitan State. But in between that time, he had set up a Facebook page called Lacrosse is Awesome. And I was contacted by another site to write for them. Then I moved on to RelaxFeli earlier this year. And I've been working with them with their site, and also working with lax.com, shooting DU and the Outlaws games.
Yeah. And you've done a great job. Your pictures are very awesome. I know a lot of the professional lacrosse players that play against the Outlaws, and the players from the Outlaws, they end up making those pictures their profile pictures because they like them so much. So that's got to be an honor to be scrolling through Facebook and seeing these guys really falling in love with your pictures.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And when I post my photo albums from each of the Outlaws games on RelaxFeli, and then I go ahead and tag the players, the number of views that we get is between 4,000 and 5,000 hits on each of those photo galleries. And yeah, it is an honor to see the players using my pictures as their profile pictures on Facebook. That is really cool.
Yeah. And now, so what's upcoming in the future for you and Lax Philly? What is some of the what is some of the positives about Lax Philly that some of the fans can get into, and what are some of the things that'll intrigue some people to check out Lax Philly and what they're all about?
Well, one of the things with our site versus some of the bigger ones is we will cover all different facets of lacrosse. We don't just stick with the MLL or the NLL or the NCAA. We expand. We've got somebody covering for us, Pete Crowley, who is we just picked up as a writer and photographer about a month ago. He's covering the WILC for us. We've got 5 new writers coming on board. So we have a more laid back setup than most of the other sites. We are starting to build our website now, and it is our intention to go ahead and get advertisers, and at some point start giving compensation to the writers, because they do a lot of work. I know myself, writing lacrosse articles, it takes a lot of research and a lot of time, and you really want to be able to compensate them somehow. So I see bigger and better things. Since I came on to RelaxFeli in March of this year, our likes on Facebook have almost doubled, which is huge. So it's growing. We're in with the PLPA, the PBLA. So we've got a lot of different connections that some of the other sites don't have.
Yeah, and definitely some of the people that you're working with over at Lax Philly are definitely doing a great job promoting the sport, and they definitely have the greatest intentions to grow the game. And now, as a photographer and someone that's written about lacrosse and professional lacrosse, what are some of the things that you love most in terms of interviews? Like when you interview a professional player or coach, what are some of the things you like to get out of that interview that helps the viewers get more intrigued in the interview?
Well, when I first started doing the interviews, I went more towards the stats on the player and then just asking them a little bit about the game. after doing so many interviews now, what I'm trying to key in on is what they felt went right, what went wrong in the game. If they were, if they were ahead and all of a sudden ended up, the other team came back and went ahead and defeated them, then I asked them what they felt they could have done differently. I also will find out from them what are different training techniques they use for young and upcoming lacrosse players, things that will get them in shape to be a good lacrosse player as they go along. One of the things I had a fun time interviewing, I've interviewed all three Powell Brothers, and to be on the sidelines with them. And then this year I was able to interview Mike, who just came on in the open tryouts, and he is such a nice guy. And seeing the three of them out there, and then being able to talk to him after the games, it's really rewarding. But I try to key in on, like I said, what they think went right, what went wrong, how much fun they're having, what started them in lacrosse, and what they do to continue to make themselves a better lacrosse player.
Yeah, and the Powell brothers, they're really special for the lacrosse world. I mean, you got three brothers all playing on one professional lacrosse team, the Denver Outlaws, and it's really cool to see all those guys. I tried out with Mike at the open tryout for the Denver Outlaws, and he's a really great player. It was good to meet him, and I'm also friends with his brothers as well. And yeah, and talking about that, it's really cool to see. I also saw them post. I'm friends with them as well as you are on Facebook, and I saw one of their posts. Their parents or their family was in attendance, and they got to see them play all together at the same time, and it's cool to see. Definitely makes it more family-like in the MLL.
Oh, exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, I know that we've got the two Thompson brothers on the Florida launch, but I was trying to figure out, and I was talking with the Outlaws press media people as to whether or not there has ever been an MLL team that has had three brothers on it, and nobody can think of one. Is there any team that you know of that there's been three brothers?
I don't think so. Yeah.
That's.
I mean, when the Powell brothers were all on MLL teams, when they were all playing at the same time in the MLL, they were all on different teams. I mean, yeah, I can't even. I mean, there could have been a time that there was two of the Powell brothers on the same team, but I don't think so. But there definitely wasn't an MLL team with all three Powell brothers. So I think this might be the first time there's been three brothers, on a team together.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And when I was doing my interview with Mike, that was one of my questions to him: is how much fun is it getting to play lacrosse with your two brothers? And I even talked to Chris about it a little bit off camera, and they just are having a blast together. The three of those guys out there, I mean, the records that they broke this year, it was just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And now with the expansion, the new team, the Atlanta Blaze, the MLL is moving from 8 teams to 9 teams. And this is the first time they've expanded in a few years. It's definitely going to be interesting. I know they have the expansion draft. I believe the expansion draft is in September sometime. I know that what they have every time there's an expansion, every year, even when there's not an expansion, they have a supplemental draft. And now that there's an expansion this year, there's an expansion draft. And I know that every team can protect 13 players, and then the rest go into the draft. And then anybody like me can enter the draft as a free agent. So I'm going to be in the draft as well. And it'll be interesting. I'm hoping to try to get an open tryout with the Atlanta Blaze at some point. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I honestly believe with being at the MLL championship game last year in Kennesaw, Georgia, a number of fans that were there, and then again this year having it at the same venue was the right move for the MLL to put a team in Atlanta.
Yeah,
it's got a good following out there, so I think that was a good move.
Yeah. And now the question will be, who are some of the star players that help lead that team? I mean, I know that Anthony Kelly is definitely one of the top face-off guys in the league, and he's up for grabs. So I mean, I definitely think that he would be somebody that they might want to build their team around. And then we'll see who the goalie is. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will, because you're right. A-Train, when he decided to leave the Outlaws right before the end of the season, I know it was his hopes that he would get picked up by another team with playoff contention, but they pretty much had their face-off guys set. And I think he just felt it was time to move on. And then they brought back Brett Hyken, who did really well. But you're right, A-Train would be a great pickup for the Blaze. I'm not sure of the other teams. I know that there are so much talent out there, and that's why I think an expansion team was huge, because there's a lot of guys that are sitting on the practice squads or just have been released from the teams, didn't renew their contracts, that could actually be out there playing for another team. So it's going to be an interesting draft.
Yeah, definitely. And then also, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the Atlanta Blaze do with the fan attendance. I mean, every championship they've done that they've had in Atlanta is they've had very good attendance and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if they get close to the Outlaws. I don't know if how big their stadium is or not. If they have a chance to get close, but because the Outlaws stadium is pretty big, but they definitely have a good shot at. I mean, they already have a pretty big fan base, and they just announced the team.
Oh yeah, I believe that the Kennesaw State University Stadium holds about 8,300 people. Now, at the MLL championship last year, I know I never know how they really accurately figure out the fan attendance, because they had some really high number last year, and I saw a lot of empty seats. Now, that could have just been people walking around.
Yeah.
But still, they did almost fill the stadium. Now, I know Sports Authority, where the Outlaws play, of course, that's where the Broncos play as well. So the
Yeah.
stadium's I think around 77,000 seats. So there's no way they would ever, even with the NCAA quarterfinals here in May,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way they would ever fill the stadium. But they do have a good following with lacrosse out there in Atlanta. So I'm thinking that they're probably going to have pretty high attendance. Let's hope that they do well. With the launch moving down to Florida last year, I know that they didn't bring in as high a numbers as they thought, but I think if that their team continues to grow and they get some more talent on there. I mean, they've got the Thompson brothers, so
Casey Powell.
yeah, and so as long as they keep those guys in there and they actually can start doing better down there in Florida, they will start pulling in more fans as well.
Yeah. And I forgot who said it, but somebody was saying that there's a possibility that, like, with the draft, that there could be another Thompson on the Florida launch. I mean, that's always a possibility.
Oh yeah,
But I know that some of them are cousins, and I'd have to like look at their history. But like, because sometimes like I refer to them as the Thompson brothers. Like some of them, I know two of them are brothers on there right now, but then like some people correct me and say, no, those two are brothers. These ones are cousins, and so
yeah.
it's hard to follow that.
Yeah, they were fun to watch, the two of them in the NCAA quarterfinals here in Colorado. It was really a fun game to shoot, and unfortunately they lost to Notre Dame, but still, and you know what was funny, when the launch came out and played the Outlaws this year, the big hoopla was the Thompson brothers, and the Outlaws did really well in shutting both of them down.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, their defense was really tough, and they kept them out of the box. It was a good game.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Outlaws, so I think what some people fail to realize with the MLL being the state it is like right now, where it's early stages in terms of the salaries aren't that big, so each MLL player has to have a second job pretty much, and so it's harder to keep a team together in terms of uh, just, and then there's so many other circumstances. But like when you think of like the Outlaws, like everybody was like, are they going to repeat? Are they going to repeat? It's hard for an MLL team to repeat because the roster changes a lot the next year. And I mean, I'm not sure if that was roster change, that much, but I'm just in general, it's hard for an MLL team to repeat. Like, I don't see the Wizards repeating, just because, like, even Rob Pennell said, he said that, some of these guys are thinking about their other careers, like they're, if they're one of them's works uh, in the walls on Wall Street or something, and like he's saying that guy's thinking about his family, and he was just going down the list and stuff. He's like that he does not think that the Wizards will have the same roster or even close to the same roster. So I just think like the MLL right now in its stages, it's still less than 20 years in existence, so it's
Yeah,
different.
yeah, and that's the thing, is that this year what hurt the Outlaws was the fact that they had so many guys that were injured. And then you had at the beginning of the season, a lot of the Outlaws players were on NLL teams that were in the playoffs. You had the MLL season move up a couple of weeks. So there was all those things thrown into the mix. They weren't able to start with some of their college kids because the season, sooner into the season, because of the season moving sooner into April.
Yeah.
But you're right. The guys do not make a whole lot of money. And a lot of them here in Colorado that actually, even though they are make their home in another state, they still will live here and coach high school lacrosse teams. I know that the Matt Bachlet and Chris Bachlet both have club lacrosse teams that they do. Plus, they're also, I believe, Mike, or not Mike, but Matt is a head coach at a high school. So John Grant Jr. is. So they do a lot of that stuff, which is nice because then the kids are actually getting coached from some of the players in the world. But
Yeah.
I believe they only make. I know everybody thinks that because they're a professional athlete that these guys are making millions of dollars. It's not even close.
Yeah.
The only time they actually make a salary is when they're actually suited up on the active the roster to be on the field for the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not making a dime. So
Yeah.
that's what hurt the Outlaws though this year was the injuries.
Okay.
Westberg went down, Eric Law, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's definitely definitely hard when that stuff happens. And you're definitely right about the season starting much earlier, and which the college season didn't end yet, and the NLL season. A lot of players that played for the Mammoth and other teams, went on to the postseason, the playoffs, and it's just definitely is it's hard to plan things as coaches when you don't know who's going to be available, who's not, and who's injured, who do we put in for this guy's. And you got a lot of talent on the practice rosters, but when you have a roster that won the championship, and then the next year there's a bunch of guys that are injured, and like you said, the college and the NLL stuff, it's hard to plan. So I definitely would be definitely in a rough spot if I was one of the coaches, but I just wouldn't know how to plan accordingly.
Well, yeah, and I remember there was a lot of talk back and forth that people were thinking that they should start the college season later because of the weather, and I believe a lot of that had to do with the snowstorms and such that happened on the East Coast this past spring. But if they do that, then you've got the seniors that are already graduated, and the season's still going on.
Yeah.
So you unfortunately with lacrosse, the outdoor lacrosse, they really can't mess around too much more with how they schedule things because
Yeah.
there's already such a crossover as it is, and there's a lot of other things to take into account. So
Yeah. Now, are you interested in the World Indoor Lacrosse Championships coming up in September? It's interesting. I'll have you answer in a second. But before that, a lot of people are upset with U.S. Lacrosse not promoting it like they did the outdoor World Championships. Yeah. So tell me your thoughts on the World Indoor Lacrosse Championships, and then your thoughts on why U.S. Lacrosse doesn't promote indoor lacrosse that much.
I know that last year going to Worlds here in Commerce City and being there for all 10 days, it was really promoted. It was everywhere, and it was a lot of fun to be there to watch all those teams from the 38 nations. I was hoping that I was going to be able to go to the WILC this year, but it just didn't work out for me. But I'm not really sure why U.S. Lacrosse isn't covering that or promoting it as much, because there are so many more box lacrosse leagues, and it's been around longer than the MLL. So I'm really not sure what their thoughts are on that. I believe that regardless of what type, whether it's indoor or outdoor lacrosse, it still has to do with lacrosse. So it should be promoted by all of the different levels, whether it's the MLL promoting it, the NLL, it doesn't matter. It's still lacrosse, and it should be promoted the same.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel the same way. And it's going to be taking place on the Onondaga Nation, like in Syracuse, New York. I know that, and so the Iroquois Nationals, they're hosting it, and it'll be cool to see. I mean, I'm not sure how many nations are competing, but I know that Turkey's playing, Israel, and my guess is there would be at least 20 nations. I mean, it's probably more somewhere between like 15 and 20, but there's definitely a lot of nations competing.
Yeah, I know we were lucky enough to scoop up Pete Crowley, who I used to work with on another site, and him and I both covered the FIL, the Worlds last year here in Commerce City, and he is going to be there for RelaxFeli covering the WILC. He's going to get us some pictures, do some different articles and such. So we've already gotten him his press credentials. So we're pretty happy about that we're going to actually have somebody there covering it for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, talk to Kevin Neilbauer. Is that how you say his last name?
Niebauer.
Yeah. So he's excited to have you on board with Lax Philly. And yeah, no, I mean, everybody that I've talked to that's talked about Lax Philly has had positive things to say. And so yeah, how did you get involved with them again? Like, did they approach you, or did they see your work with lacrosse.com?
Yeah, what happened was I happened to be friends with Kevin before I went to Lax Philly. And so he had seen my work, and he saw that I was doing stuff for lax.com. And so him and I started talking a little bit, and I was kind of getting to the point where it was too much stress with the other site that I was running for, too many high expectations with regards to the number of articles we had to put out, that kind of thing. And having a full-time job, it's really hard, just like the professional athletes. They're getting paid to do this, both jobs, and trying to do a full-time job and then write 4 to 5 articles a week. There was just way too much pressure with the other site. And it was funny because Kevin, Pete, and I all used to work for the same site, and now we're all working for Lax Philly. But he had approached me, and I had an opportunity to shoot some games for lax.com. And I just decided that I wanted to branch out. I wanted to go to a little more laid back site. Didn't matter to me whether we had a website at that point, because I didn't want all that added pressure. So I went ahead and decided to make the move. And now we're going to be having some big announcements. We have been looking for writers RelaxFeli to try to expand. And we figured now was the perfect time to do it with the kind of in between the seasons. And so we've been reaching out, and we are going to be posting bios of all of the writers that we have just picked up on the last couple of days. We've got some big names that are coming on with us, people that are heavy into the lacrosse world. We've got some guys that have lacrosse gear that they promote that they're going to be coming on as writers for us. And we're looking to get a writer in each city. Whether or not they can attend the games, that's not that big of a deal, because they can still go ahead and write the articles. So we've got some big announcements coming up on RelaxFeli, and we're working on our website right now, looking for advertisers to help out with some of the costs. And that should be up and running in the next couple of months, where we'll be able to actually post the articles there and then share the links on Facebook as well.
Nice. Well, great job with everything you're doing, and you're definitely doing a great job growing the game. And we definitely should do more of these interviews. This is like number 4, I think, or number 3. I'm not. Yeah,
number 4.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely thank you for being on the show. And
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I love your insight in the lacrosse world. So yeah, thank you very much for being on the show, and I look forward to having you on again.
Great. Thanks, Johnny. You have a great day.
All right, you too.
Okay. Alrighty.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you guys check out the Facebook page for Ministry of Lacrosse, and also check out the Facebook page for RelaxFeli. Click like on those, and I'll see you guys back here next time.